Fight Voter Fraud Incorporated works tirelessly to promote transparency and accountability in the electoral process, advocating for measures that prevent fraudulent voting and protect our representative republic and the rights of citizens. Linda SYNC-O-WICZ and her band of non-partisans are committed to upholding the integrity of U.S. elections and are currently investigating over 280,000 cases of suspected voter fraud. How can you help to ensure we have one vote for one legal voter? Here's Linda.
Hi, and welcome to SYNC-O-WICZ. My name is Linda SYNC-O-WICZ. I am the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud, and we're working all across the country and helping out other organizations actually look into potential voter fraud. Quick little update. I delivered last week 167 double voters to the feds in New York. We know we're not going to hear anything from them until their investigations are over. But like I said, we have a lot of work we have to do and information that we need to show. And again, we are working with a number of other organizations across the country. And starting next week, we will have your double registered, double voter information. You'll just need to go to our website, fightvoterfraud.org, and fill in the request. And starting next week, we will be able to send the information to you. And as always, we ask people to double check the information because you never know. We're pretty confident in it. But again, make sure you also double check what we send you as well. So thank you again for that. Now, this week, the states that we're going to cover are Georgia, Kansas. We're going to talk a little bit about some national stuff, and Michigan. Oh my goodness, there is so much going on in Michigan right now. It is unbelievable. But we're going to save that for later, and we will be doing our trivia. Next week, you will actually see a new format and a new hour-long show for SYNC-O-WICZ. So we're really excited about that. So thank you so much for all of you who are watching. And again, starting next week, we will be having guests coming on. And Fani from Michigan, from Check My Vote, he will be our first guest on our hour-long program. So thank you, Fani, ahead of time. We're very excited about that. All right, so let's go to Georgia. Now, Trump's executive order targets the barcodes on ballots, which may not make much difference to some states. I mean, we have 19 states that have some form of barcode that is used on the ballots. But there's 3 of them that use it for the entire state for their elections. And that's Delaware, Georgia, and South Carolina. Now, there's very specific things that are listed on the executive order. And with the executive order, it has built into it a barcode or quick response code. It says that they shouldn't have that. So this is causing some issues, especially for Georgia, and again, Delaware and South Carolina, because with that put in there, now they've got to figure out how they're going to use their system. Now, you do have a number of organizations that don't want anything changed because remember, all of our elections have been absolutely perfect, that there's no problems with anybody's votes at all, which obviously, that's sort of tongue in cheek because we know there are issues. Even if it's only one issue, it's a vote that should or should not have been counted with any of the issues that are going on. So we really do need to clean the voter rolls, but we're also talking about 50 unique states. Everyone has something different within their states. An example, Connecticut. We use the Secretary of State, and we have registrar of voters, both a Democrat and a Republican, and we vote by town. That's 169 towns. That's 338 election officials. Fortunately, we do not use barcodes. We have enough problems as it is with just the way we have our voting system put together and our voter rolls, which absolutely needs to be fixed. But you have some others that rely on the barcode when they go to vote. And some of them actually do print out a receipt so you know exactly how you voted. There's some that use electronic devices. And I don't get into the conspiracy theories about the way the stuff is being voted, the machines themselves. Do I honestly think there's a problem? Yes, I do. But that's not my expertise. I leave that to those who have been investigating everything concerning them. So now all we're trying to do with the country is make people feel like their vote counts. And in a lot of counties and in a number of states, people don't. So with Georgia, and I'm going to read you what the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, he's a Republican, he defended the state's voting system as secure. In March, the judge who presided over Haldeman's testimony declined to block the use of Georgia's voting equipment, but said the case had, quote, identified substantial concerns about the administration's maintenance and security of Georgia's electronic in-person voting system. Well, everybody keeps saying everything is okay, but then we're finding out that there's issues. So that is something that is being addressed right now in Georgia. And again, Georgia, Delaware, and South Carolina are the ones that have the barcodes on their voting system. And is all this stuff going to cost money? Of course it is. We have states that have antiquated systems. We do need the newest technology, but I firmly believe in a paper ballot, fill in the bubble, and hand count. That's the way it was done for years and years and years. And hopefully we can have some accuracy, but that also goes back to making sure the voter rolls themselves are clean. If somebody moved and they live in another state, they should not still be on your voter rolls. So again, that was Georgia, and I said tie in Delaware and South Carolina because they use the barcodes through their entire state. And this law, I believe, goes into effect in 2026. At least that's what I think. So the next story we're going to talk about is Kansas. Now, this was an AP story, and I'm sure there's others that have picked it up. But the donor campaign law to ban foreign donations in elections. Now, I don't know about you, but I do not believe that we should have foreign money influencing our elections. Whether it's having a nonprofit organization promoting something they are for or against, and it's being voted on, it should not have money that comes from someone who is foreign. Federally, you're not supposed to have it. So we should also have it locally, within our states, within our counties, within our towns, that we should not have foreign money. Now, in Kansas, the Kansasans for Constitutional Freedom argues that the law that's taking place or effective July 1st, which is banning the foreign money, says it violates the free speech rights and it needs the money from the foreign investment to keep their organization going. Really? So they got their funding through 1630 Fund, and it's been tied to Hans-Georg Weiss. He's a Swiss billionaire that lives in Wyoming, and he's known for financing the, quote, according to the AP, liberal causes. Well, the Kansas legislators heard testimony from Frank LaRose, who is the Secretary of State in Ohio, who had brought up the same issues, and they even mentioned Weiss by name. Now, in Ohio, you have two groups and 3 individuals who filed suit to challenge Ohio's law almost immediately. But in October, a federal court allowed Ohio to enforce it ahead of the trial for the lawsuit. So thank goodness we have some judges with some common sense. Now, some of the other things is federal law bars foreign nationals from contributing to campaigns or political committees. But the new Kansas law will bar groups campaigning for or against proposed amendments to the state constitution from accepting contributions directly or indirectly from foreign nationals. The groups also will have to certify that no named donors received more than $100,000 from a foreign national during the previous 4 years, and groups violating the law can be barred from electioneering for 4 years. So I actually think it's a pretty good law that Kansas is putting in. You know, a lot of these laws, we should just say common sense. Common sense. We, the people, are supposed to vote for our election officials as well as our legislators, our senators and congressmen, our governors, and everybody else. We're the ones who are supposed to decide. People who have a stake in what's going on. Foreign money, we do not need in any of our elections. And as I've said in the past, we don't go to France and start pouring money into their election system to have one particular candidate over another. That's why they're a country. And we're a country too. You may or may not agree with me, but I believe the United States of America is for the people, and we are the people who should elect officials to represent what we feel. And the only thing impeding that, well, actually, there's a couple of things. One is foreign money getting involved. And 2, some nefarious means by which others have manipulated different elections. And it's been being done, or people who decide that I'll vote in Florida, I'll vote in New York, I'll vote wherever I want to vote because nobody's really paying attention. So we really do need a system, an outside system, a third-party system that will clean the voter rolls. Not directly take the names off, but give the recommendations to the secretaries of state who they contract with that these people moved, died, shouldn't be on the voter rolls, aren't real. That's what a ghost voter is, by the way. You may or may not have heard the terms, but a ghost voter is somebody who's registered to vote that doesn't actually exist. And there's a lot of them out there. So anyway, so that's our Kansas story. And of course, we tied in Ohio to that as well. Now, a friend of mine who is an immigration attorney sent me some information that I was very pleased to hear. And this is national news, and it is through the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services have enhanced capabilities to verify U.S. citizenship and immigration status. Now, many of you who had followed Fight Voter Fraud know that back in, I think it was August, we started pushing information out there to contact your Secretary of State. There is a way. Every single Secretary of State can find out who the U.S. citizens are and who on the voter rolls are not. Of course, here in Connecticut, when we sent the letters and wanted information and then followed up with how many have you removed, our Secretary of State, Denise Thomas, you hear crickets. We know that Alabama worked to get them off. I know the RNC had sent the letter to Nevada Secretary of State spelling out exactly how to do this. So now this particular website through the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services have been upgrading things. And this is the one that follows the Executive Order 14248, preserving and protecting the integrity of American elections. Doesn't everybody want that? Don't you want that? Don't you want your vote to count? Well, what the USCIS, that's the acronym they use. There's acronyms everywhere. Says that the SAVE program, which is the Systematic Alien Verification Entitlement Program, or the SAVE program, ensures a single reliable source for verifying immigration status and U.S. citizenship. And it supports the executive order. Now, mind you, you need to be registered user, which basically would be state and local government agencies. They're the one. You and I can't use this. This is not for our use. And one of the big reasons is because not only do you need the person's date of birth, but it's also using a social security number. And I know with my organization, anytime we would come across anything with someone's social security number on it, we'd redact it, which means we'd black it out. We don't want to know anybody's social security number, even if it has been a person who has passed away, which we found multiple ones with that. The reason being is it's not legal for us to use somebody's social security number, but I also didn't want to continue on to have somebody who could steal the social security number from a deceased person, because believe it or not, that happens. And unfortunately, it happens a lot more than people realize, which again is another reason why we need to have the deceased voters off the voter rolls. But I am just so happy to see that the USCIS is enhancing their system. They're also saying now you can get multiple bulk information in utilizing the system. So they'll explain to you exactly how to do that in bulk. This goes mostly probably for, state, local officials, election officials, secretaries of state. Please utilize the system. Help clean the voter rolls. We really need you to do that for us. So thank you again, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, for what you're actually doing. All right, so now we are going to go to our trivia question. Our trivia question this week is, why is Election Day always in November? I don't know if any of you have actually thought about that. Why is it in November? Well, the reason is that Congress chose a date in November for Election Day because most of the people at the time were farmers. They were farmers, and the harvest pretty much had already been done. So that's why we have it in November, and it was Congress that was the one who actually certified and established Election Day, which again, if you remember from last week's program, that was in 1845. So that's how long it has been in November. All right, so now we're going to go on to Michigan. Oh my goodness. There is so much going on in Michigan. It is unbelievable. So last week, we had Representative DeBoyer. He's a Republican who shined light on the state's failed campaign finance system. Now, campaign finance systems are run by the Secretary of State because every dollar has to be accounted for. Now, I know that there's a number of companies trying to accomplish this task in making sure that the campaign finance stuff is running well. And the only one so far that we have found for 5 years has been Blue Shift Technologies, has been handling Arizona's with the Arizona Secretary of State. So right off the bat, Michigan, you might want to look into them because they figured it out. Well, I guess in Michigan, the Secretary of State's office hired a company and it wasn't working out. And they hired another company, and it appears that maybe that the companies are owned by the same group for this. But the big problem is that the system is failing. It's a disaster. And in Michigan, the Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, she's also seeking to become governor. Now, as many of you may know, we had on last week's vote notes, we had Fani's testimony in Michigan of all the issues that were going on. But the Republican members of the House Oversight Committee and House Appropriations General Government Subcommittee met, and they said they've got some serious problems in Michigan with this. So what has happened now, and we're going to put this up on our vote notes on our website, is that the House Resolution number 117, and it's really important because the Secretary of State is not complying with the subpoena, with the information. So the Michigan House of Representatives declared Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson in civil contempt on May 22nd for defying a subpoena and refusing to turn over remaining election training materials that lawmakers are seeking for legislative oversight. So this is another part of the stuff that they're looking into. The contempt resolution, like I said, which we'll put up on our website, against the Democratic Secretary of State was adopted 52-47, and it was a party line vote. It directs House Legal Counsel to take the proper steps necessary, including litigation, to ensure compliance with the subpoena. The resolution was introduced by the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, that's Representative Jay DeBoyer, who's a Republican, who said he put it forward after receiving word from the Michigan Department of State that it was not going to be providing any additional information. So we're kind of gathering that they did give some information, but they didn't give all of it. Quote, the legislature is the body that determines how elections are run, the time, the manner, and the place, DePoyer said in his May 22nd statement. The Constitution provides us directly with the right to oversee departments and agencies within the state of Michigan to make sure that they're operating within the law. We are simply trying to determine, is the Secretary of State's office administering elections in a lawful manner? I don't think so. I think with all the stuff that we've seen and all the stuff that we've heard, and next week we will have some information by a Michigan group that did a study. So we'll have their information as well. So once again, all we're trying to do is have one vote for one legal voter. There are all kinds of issues everywhere. And anybody that wants to send us information, you can send it to info@fightvoterfraud.org. And believe me, we look into everything that we get, all the information. We keep track of it. I think I told you before, I've got 50 binders, one binder on every state with every news story and all the information that we're getting out there to you, the public, the voting public. So next week, my guest is Fani Mantravati. He is the founder of Check My Vote. So we're very excited that he's going to be coming on our program. And we can't do this show without the team. And my team is Tim Harriman. He is my technical director. Olivia behind the scenes, she's my producer. And the executive direction and distribution is provided by OBBM Network TV. So go to OBBM Network TV, sign up. It's free. And please like and share. It's going to be incredible over the next weeks and months of all the people that we're going to end up having on the show, because starting next week, we go to an hour. So thank you so much to all of you that are watching, and we'll see you then. Thank you.